All right, let's get into our major discussion at the first leg on the show this morning. INEC has released the full timetable for the general elections in 2019, and already parties are gradually kicking off campaign in states.
Well, there have been outcries in recent times that Nigerian youth be given active roles in leadership, especially with the not too young to run bill on the front burner. Well, so much has been said about the need for young people in Nigeria to get involved in the politics of the nation. But many have argued that the youth in question have not organized themselves enough to take over the mantle of leadership.
All right, are the Nigerian youth ready to seize the opportunity before them in the forthcoming general elections? Those are the big, that's a big question.
Indeed. We
have to answer this morning. We have joining us the Chief Executive Officer of Skylar Incorporated. He's a young presidential aspirant who wants to contest in the 2019 presidential election against incumbent President Muhammad Buhari. We have him right here in the studio, Ahmed Buhari.
Good to meet you.
Well, let me ask, is there a relationship between the Buhari in the studio and the Buhari in Asura?
First of all, good morning. Every time I go places, I'm being asked this question, and I have no relationship with him. Okay. We're actually from different states, and to be honest, I've never met the guy.
Oh, okay.
Which state are you from?
I'm from Niger State.
Oh, okay. All right, now let's get into the main issue now. The not too young to run has been a bill that a lot of Nigerians applauded. They were happy. Yeah, it's a new dawn and all of that. But let's come to the real issues on ground.
Yes.
Are the youth really ready for politics?
Well, it's hard to tell if the youths are really ready. But over the last few years, at least the last 24 months, we've seen a huge interest from young people to want to participate in leadership, to want to participate in politics and the process that gives us our leaders. And this is very important because one of the reasons why we've not been taken seriously over the years is because we just want to follow. But then people tend to become what you want them to become. As soon as you transfer leadership from one generation to the other generation, as at when due, people start feeling the need to want to be prepared for that opportunity. So, but we've had a system in this country where over a very long period of time, the same set of people sort of held on to power for a very long time. So those people underneath them, whether you want to go on a 10-year grading, you find out that they didn't really have this hunger to be responsible for that kind of leadership or politics, and so we just left it for some class, and there's this vacuum that has been created, and this vacuum that's been created can be filled up with anything. So it's very important for young people to start asking themselves, as opposed to complaining on social media, as opposed to fighting themselves over what is not supposed to be, they should ask themselves, what does the Constitution say about this? How do we handle this? How do we demand for accountability, transparency, and good governance from our elected officials? These are the things we want young people to start paying attention to, not complain. So if you really look at it critically, the only time we can start being taken seriously is when we step forward and say, you know what, we're not standing on the sidelines anymore. We're coming to the center of it. We're going to rally ourselves. We have the number. We have the expertise and education and all of those things. And we want to be given a chance. And this is exactly what we're doing right now.
Yeah. When you talk about it, some would tell you that Nigerian youths are really ready for leadership. And they would tell you that the few ones that have got opportunity to serve the people in the country have done or are doing a bad job, and they are quick to mention the governor of Kogi State. That so if you look at it that way, and some could say the governor of Imo State is still a young person, and there we still have some other governors like that that fall into within less than 5 bracket of.
So I'm very glad. I'm very glad you're struggling. I'm very glad you're struggling to go beyond 2 or 3, as the case may be, and then you tell me the other people in what age bracket do they fall in. Again, it's important for you to understand that age is not a function of good leadership. Good leadership has to do with a lot more than just age. People at younger ages around the world have held on to leadership, and then we've seen them perform. So what I want us to do right now as a people is to be ready to pay for the kind of process that gives us our leaders, and not be paid for the kind of process that presents us with the kind of leaders we have. What I mean to say is, at this point in time, Nigerians should be ready to organize town hall meetings. Nigerians should be ready to interface with people who want to aspire, ask them what they have to deliver, find out if it's realistic, the delivery and all of that, and then start thinking and shifting our minds from what we've already been used to what we should be hoping for.
All right. Now, let me ask, or maybe let's put it in perspective.
Yes.
When we talk about young people or talk about youth, what age bracket really falls in this category where we see some people as, okay, no, that is too old. So, you know, okay, this is young or something.
There is no definite dictionary definition for age.
Okay.
So, unfortunately, different climes sort of adopt what they believe falls within an age bracket for consideration as youth. Okay,
so for Nigeria, what is acceptable to Nigerians as being young or being youthful?
As a matter of fact, it goes from about early 20s to about mid-30s. Okay. So when you call me young, I feel offended because I'm going to be 40 this year, and I'm actually thinking I should be counting down, not counting up in reality. So I think if you're 40 and you still do not aspire to become more than just what you've always been, which is, of course, assist and support, then there is something wrong with the system. And this whole hunger for the opportunity to participate in leadership and to, you know, give out whatever we think we have with regards to service delivery, if it is not properly managed, I think we're going to be heading to a time in this country where a generation will not be prepared for leadership should it befall them.
All right. Now, would you say that the society
yes.
has played a major role in making Nigerian youths to be contented with what they have, with the little they do, and say that I cannot even aspire because I cannot get it?
I try to think about this, and I go back to the military era. And so we had a military era that made everybody just sit back and do not challenge the system because of fear. And we've been generously blessed with democracy now, and I think it's time for people to start exploring it and start using it to our advantages. So for me, I just want young people to understand that there's a democracy and it allows you to participate in politics. Democracy has given us the opportunity to look beyond what surrounds us or how we've always accepted the governance structure and all of that. So yes, this is a cry to more young people to get involved. This is a cry to more young people to ask questions. This is a cry to more young people to support themselves. But more essentially, do not just support anybody, support people that you think can actually deliver. And if you look at the reason why we keep having bad leadership, it's because of the process that presents us with these leaders. So if the process is corrupt, it's very hard to get people who would be in office for your interests.
All right, let's talk about getting involved, like you talked about. Now, the UN projection says that by 2050, Nigeria will be the third most populous country in the world after China and India. And the population at that time will be hovering around 500 million people, between 400 and something to 500 million people. Now, the population of the youth in that bracket or in that scenario will be almost over 80%. All right, right now we know the huge percentage of young people or youth in the system. If you check the results of the last elections and all of that, the number of people who come to decide who becomes governor or becomes president is very small.
Absolutely.
Youths are not really getting involved in all of this. When it even comes to, okay, they've been called, go and get your PVC, get involved. A lot of youth are not voting. So
they are more active on the social media.
They are more active on social media. So how can they come out to say, okay, I want to be president, I want to be senator, I want to be, when a lot of them are not even participating in the system?
Fine, I agree with you. They all participate in the system. If you look at the people who turn out to vote, they're young people. If you say to me that they fall in a category of maybe the elite or non-elite, that's another thing to talk about. So maybe the elites will stay at home and do social media and watch TVC and see what's going on in the news. But you would actually see on the queues young people voting. But most of those young people are voting because they believe that when I go to the queues, I probably will pick one or two things and take back home. So this kind of democracy or process that delivers us the kind of democracy that we have is what we should start fighting against. You know, so we have to discourage all of those kind of things that happen and also make the institutions really strong so people can start believing in them. I think 2015 general elections gave us a new face to democracy, and that is what is making a lot of us believe the system is clean, the system is more transparent now, and if we do our homework properly, we may get a good chance to unseat incompetence.
Okay, yeah, and judging from what you just said, we know that poverty plays a lot of role in Nigerian politics.
It does.
And then it brings the question, really, the financial support, which you cannot push aside in Nigerian politics. And then godfatherism. Nigerian youths, they want to come and participate, they want to contest, they have to belong to political parties. And will these godfathers that seem to be larger than life, perceived godfathers, trust Nigerian youth enough to say, okay, I'm going to put my wealth behind you to support you?
Well, I don't know about getting the wealth behind, but I just think for us to actually succeed as a country, everybody has to be inclusive. Everybody, man, woman, regardless of religion, regardless of tribe, regardless of social status and political party affiliation. So I've tried as much as possible in all the places I've gone to talk to young people and say to them, disassociate yourself from party politics and its ideologies and look for what you think will move us forward. Because if you're going to be hell-bent on insisting that you're going to support a particular party because that is what your area supports, then we may not be getting the results that we deserve. Exactly. So we should talk to these people, and these people should be ready to talk back to us. If we are having a group of or a breed of politicians that find themselves too big to talk to us or tell us what plans that they have, then we shouldn't consider them for election or re-election, as the case may be. I am really appealing to young people to take this as a service to themselves and generation unborn to start demanding for a good system. So again, I've sold the newspaper reviews, and all of the things that are happening in newspaper reviews still boils down to the fact that we still do not have a system. It's just, I'm hearing now that they relocated the IG to Benue. It doesn't solve anything. Does it have to happen after there's a crisis? What if there's a crisis tomorrow in another state? So you need to put systems in place. And I keep saying it. What I would like you to know, we have to have a proper data management system. It boils down to everything. You talked about the population, and I'm thinking, population, if I ask you what the population of this country is, you tell me a different figure from her.
No official figure.
No official figure.
Well, the NBS said we're about 193 million people as at 2017.
Yeah, UN will tell you 180, and then many believe it's 200
was
million.
I counted? That's the question now. Yes,
counted,
exactly.
no census
and then I heard the former speaker speaking about Boko Haram being the killings in Benue and parts of the country worse than Boko Haram. And I'm asking, how do you know that? Where are the figures? We haven't got any figures. Nothing can help us plan. Nothing can help us prepare. And this is the big problem we're facing in this country. So are we prepared to get it on the right path and say, okay, fine, we need to find out how we can use our proper data management system to curb immigration, to improve the health sector, to improve education, and all those kind of things. So for me, again, except we're not prepared, but if we're prepared and we want to really have a country that's functioning, then we have to know how many people we're catering for. I keep wondering, how do you even build a budget when you don't even have an idea of how many people exist in this country? Budget for who? Budget for what? You know, and you're trying to situate a bridge that connects from Apapa to some other place, and you go to take a prototype in Finland with a very, very low number of people applying their bridge and expect it to work. The strength and material of this bridge can't work. We need a proper data management system. We need a proper data management system that will help us ensure that the civil service even works. Even the security system. And of course, with the killings in Benue, I still think that restructuring has to come in place.
Okay, yeah, looking at what you just said, really, okay, you wanted to ask a question?
Yeah, but talking about networking, because I asked, one of my first questions was whether the youth are ready.
Yes.
Now, if you take your mind back to the pre-independence and then the independence on First Republic era, where the groups from the north, the groups from the south, southwest, and all of that, where it took a long time of complex negotiation for them to come together to agree on anything. If you forward now to the present future where we are right now,
yes,
we have seen last year comments from, or 2 years ago, comments from Arewa Youth Forum, the IPOB, the issues in the Niger Delta, and all of that. Now, the average youth today, we were thinking that there are new generation people who complain, like you were saying, old people, the same recycled leaders and all of that. But the new generation are not coming out to say, okay, fine, let us, Niger Delta youths, reach out to the Arewa Youth Forum, let us reach out to IPOB, let us sit down and create a new conference and create a new ideology for this country. This is what we are looking for.
Okay, I'll tell you why it's not going to happen.
Okay.
It's not going to happen because nobody really wants to be anybody's friend. The only thing that will bring people together is when they leverage on their comparative economic advantages. So when you look at the people in the north, what have they got? Look at people in the west, what have they got? I can tell you for sure right now, Lagos State and Kebbi State are best of friends because there's an economic relationship that exists between them. I expect that our leaders should start thinking of how to leverage on our comparative economic advantages. Every single region you find in this country has got something to offer. What it needs to do is go take it to the market and look for the right partnership. I keep citing an example with the leather beaters in Sharada in Kano and the Aba clusters of shoe belts and leather making manufacturing. Yes, and I keep thinking, where do you Aba people source for your leather? And they tell you the imports. Where do you people in Kano sell your leather? And they tell me, oh, we sell our leather to Louis Vuitton. Recently, Louis Vuitton released a statement saying they want to thank the people of Kano because Kano happens to be its second largest supplier of leather. And it beats me because I expect the governor of Kano and the governor of Abia State to have a synergy. So much that when the people from Aba are traveling all the way to Kano to go and buy some of the pre-processed leather, they will tell them, oh, we built a church for you people to pray while you come. While you stay here, there's a nice comfort area because they benefit from them. So that benefit from our comparative economic advantage is the only thing that can unite us. In as much as our leaders are not prepared to leverage upon that and just become lazy and just wait for the center to give them something, we're not going to find any reason to want to hug each other. If you and I have an economic advantage between us, something we do, I'll call you every morning, you'll be my best brother. I'll stop calling you your name, I'll start calling you my brother. Because there's something I gain from you. This is how I want us to change our mindset. Everything has to be about the economy. Even the Fulani headsmen and whether they move from place to sell, why are they moving? They're just moving to sell. Create ranches for them. If you create ranches for them, I will start growing grass to supply to those people, to those cows. I will start thinking of how to go and site a dairy farm close to those cows. I will start thinking of a proper abattoir system that will give us proper hygienic meat in our markets. These are the ways I want us to start thinking, how is this going to benefit us economically? And whether you want to talk about the shared situation and whether we're having a crisis, a possible crisis with other countries like Iran, because there's a bilateral relationship with Iran. And this situation could stir up something that we may not be able to handle. Why do we have to focus on all of those things that we can create unnecessary distraction? Why don't we focus on how we can create wealth for our people? And when everybody's belly full, I doubt if we'll be fighting each other.
Indeed. Relating this to what you said earlier before talking about how state governments can make their states more economically viable, you talked about the need to put a lot of things in place, set in a system, put institutions in place to make Nigeria be on autopilot to run itself effectively. But then when you think about all of this that you suggested, it still boils down to those already in the system. Can they be trusted enough to do the right thing? After all, they are the ones in the system running the country and the states.
So what we're doing right now is not just to get me elected as president. No, it's actually to send a message out to some people who do not think there's any way to get this country working right. And if this sacrifice that I am doing, that we are doing together now, would deliver us the kind of Nigeria that will be good for us and our children, then so be it. So this I would like to call a sacrifice. This is something I would like to call the road map or the road path to getting us a better country. So there are lots of things that could happen. And so because we have a sort of leadership that gets distracted and say, oh, there is a money and we don't know how to create money, if you and I have got what to tell them to create that kind of wealth, then we are obliged to do so. All right.
We have lots of Nigerian youths that are migrating to Europe via Libya and other countries. We all know the story and so on. And if you ask them, you talk to them, a lot of them have lost hope in the country. A lot of them have lost faith in the country. And that's the reason why they're leaving. Things are not working and so on. But one way or the other, we still need a sense of knowledge of our history and who we are as a people.
Yes.
Now, do these young people really have the time or have the willingness to know who we really are and what we can do?
When you talk of survival, you don't care where you come from.
Okay.
The only time you're going to be worried about your history, where you're coming from, where you're going to go, is when you have something to fall back to. Hope is the missing element. And of course, security is also very paramount. So it has to do with those two areas, agriculture and insecurity. I keep thinking about it. So the reason why there's all these tensions around the country is because we have created this fear amongst ourselves. And I keep talking about the comparative, how we can actually start involving ourselves with comparative religious studies, because we have built an educational system right now where every single person you see has a sect that he follows, whether it be Christianity, whether it be Islam, and they sort of grow up in that line, and they do not get a chance to interface with other people or other cultures until they get to the larger society. Tell me, is that the right time for them to start understanding themselves? No, absolutely not. So we need to start bringing it from the basics. Then we move to the next thing, which of course I talked about, the comparative economic advantages. I look at agriculture, for example, with regards to jobs and making these people get gainfully employed and not to start moving out. Let me tell you the truth. If all of those people have something to feed upon, they will not believe in this country. So this is how I think our agriculture should move, as opposed to carrying tubers of yams to export. I expect that those tubers of yam should be properly studied. In that same tuber of yam, you have extracts that you can use in the pharmaceutical companies. You have extracts that you can